Hi, it's Debi Derryberry, the voice of Jimmy Neutron, here on Points of Experience. Thanks for joining me.
Got a blast into the Points of Experience, everybody. How awesome. My gosh. Jimmy Neutron, one of my favorite shows. We talk about so many cool things in this episode, and the cultural icon that Jimmy Neutron has been in over 20 years. I mean, if you see a hairstyle that looks like Jimmy Neutron's, it's constantly in pop culture. If you just go to like news and type in Jimmy Neutron, which I did in preparation for this episode, constantly people are talking about it in one way or another. Like somebody's got Jimmy Neutron hair, or like there's constantly references to this show and these characters. I mean, there's the Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl, I believe is the name of the title. It's got Hugh Neutron in it, and hopefully Jimmy will make an appearance in that and many other things. And it wouldn't be a surprise to me if we see more Jimmy Neutron content in the future, because it is such an amazing show. I loved it as a kid. Carl Weezer and Sheen were some of my favorite characters growing up. Oh my gosh, it's such a great fond time. I remember just sitting and eating sugary cereal watching Jimmy Neutron. Those were the days. Debbie shares so much with us today on the podcast. Make sure you check out all of her stuff. We link it at the end of the episode, but go to her website. She offers tons of coaching. She has a book out, which we talk about. It is one of my favorite pieces of content to learn about the voiceover industry and how to get into it. The voice of many more things than Jimmy Neutron. Many people know her for that, but we're talking, JJ the Jet Plane, Crash Bandicoot, Monster High, F is for Family, Genshin Impact, Bobby's World, The Addams Family. Her resume is astounding. We talk about her work in Toy Story and how a little moment turned into what we see now. Recording on the road, things that are important for actors to understand before you wind up getting an agent. Her, process working on a character that she's done for many years. What it's like working with other actors, just general life as a voice actor stuff. There's so much wisdom imparted on us in this episode, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. So check out DebiDerryberry.com. Check out her music on Spotify. We're going to play some of it at the end and all that great stuff. Her book's on Amazon, and we would appreciate it here at the Points of Experience podcast if you could leave us a review on Apple. That is your homework from me, your coach, today, leaving a review on the Apple podcast. But stick around, and we've got Debi Derryberry on the Points of Experience podcast. Yeah, when I came out to LA, I wound up meeting with all the great agencies.
Yeah.
And Dean was just one of those really wonderful people that I felt a connection with, and he kind of got what I was interested in. And, I decided to say, hey, let's get into business,
Great. Well, that's a good thing to have an agent that you can connect with.
Yes, that's very important because, I'm sure you know better than anybody in this business. Like there's so many other things involved, and you want to be a creative and you want to be an actor, and those are the things you want to focus on. Yeah. You want the business things to be as kind of like tied up as much as possible, so you can only focus on what you want to do, which is act.
Yeah. Now, is this your booth you're calling me from?
It is. This is my booth that I turned one of my rooms into like a fully functional studio. So it's
beautiful, just beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, when you spend so much time in a place, you want it to be comfortable, and you want to be able to, do jumping jacks, I guess, if you want to, or whatever you might want. So for me, I had to make it green and colorful for me. I appreciate yours as well. I love everything in the what are the posters that I can't see next to the Jimmy Neutron poster? Oh, we got even more.
Yeah, I got a lot of pastels, from stuff I've done.
Yes.
And that's my booth with the glass there. And there's my Life with Louie, Emmy thing. And then I have another sound panel there. And then inside the booth, it's really cute and purple. So I converted this closet here, and it's purple.
Oh, I love that.
And I have a stool I can sit on, and I have Apple box, and I have, if you can see my Y, a yellow tech mic. I got a monitor in here. It's It's all set up.
Oh my gosh. So when did you, how long have you had this set up? Or was there like a process of you saying like, I want to have a booth that I really enjoy and I want it to look like this design wise? When did this all come about to you having it the way you like it now?
Well, we were doing a house remodel and I needed to put a door in where my other booth was. It was just like one of those the curtains hanging from the ceiling kind of booth.
Yeah.
And I wanted my students to be able to come in the side door and just be here in my office and go into a booth. So I stole some space. That was a closet back to back. Like there was another closet there.
Yeah.
And I stole a bunch of it. And then, of course, had Dan Leonard and George Woodham and all the guys come over and show me how to do it. And Dan Bentley at Plenum. So I have some air in there. And my husband's a techie. So it was just, we were doing a remodel and I needed to dedicate this room for students to come in and not through the main house. Because it got to be, I don't know, it was just feeling like I wanted to have a professional dedicated space.
Yeah.
So I spend a lot of time, as you know, in the booth.
Yeah.
So we have to like it and it has to look good.
Well, it looks fabulous and kudos. And I think that's probably amazing for students to be able to like, just, you know, you don't have to have people walking through your kitchen and like doing that when you have students come over.
Well, I used to do a lot of in-person classes. I'd schedule like 5 students or 6 students and they'd come over and I'd do a 3.5-hour class. They'd come in, they'd sit and we'd do a whole thing. But since pandemic, I don't want anybody here. Yeah. And I mean, once in a while, I'll have somebody over here to record. They wear their mask till they're in the booth and they disinfect before and after. But pretty much we're solo now. So that door just is like letting fresh air in now.
Yeah, which doesn't hurt. I mean, it's you know, it gets pretty stuffy when you sit in a 4x4 or 5x5, whatever it is for a while. Debbie, I have to go and give you a little bit of praise here. I obviously I'm a voice actor as well.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I got into this business was because of people like you, and thanks to generous voice actors of your kind of acclaim, creating resources for voice actors like your book. It offered kind of an opportunity for me when I was doing acting. There it is, right there, Voiceover 101. And that's the second edition.
Yes.
Which I'd love to talk to you about in a second, because there wasn't a lot of resources for me when I was first starting, because I came from the world of doing theater and on camera. And voiceover was kind of like this enigma of a career where it's like, if you snuck your way in, you were there and you were able to kind of, learn trial by fire, so to speak. But I found myself like, I don't like doing that. I like to know as much as I can before I enter the arena so I can best prepare. And your book was one of those best resources. And obviously having the background in history being, like the voice of, people say this too all the time, but the voice of my childhood. I grew up in the 90s. Jimmy Neutron was constantly on my TV. To connect those dots and also have that sense of like, this person I can trust. I know they're good at what they do. I sign off on reading this book and recommending it to people.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that's just my long-winded way of saying thank you for doing what you do. And I appreciate everything you've done. Let's start right. We'll get into your early life quickly, but where did the inception for you to write that book, and not only write it once, but create a second edition? Where did this love for teaching and providing resources for actors come from?
I never really planned on teaching. I had a guest house. And some of the kids, the dad was like, can you just teach my kids? And I said, okay. We started that. And this was, 15, 20 years ago that and it kind of snowballed. It was like there were people that heard I was teaching. Oh, can you teach my kids? So I was doing kids workshops. And then people at the agency would hear I was coaching and they'd want me to coach them for a job, an audition. And I don't know how it segued into me thinking I better just start teaching a class to get everybody on the same page of what I think is important in VO. And eventually, like 8-9 years into it, I thought, I have so much information and I can't cover it in my 3-hour class, which exhausts me now. So I thought I'd write a book. And actually somebody who was a writer on a cartoon I was doing approached me and she said, Debbie, do you ever want to write a book? And I said, yeah, I just don't really know where to start. Jennifer Tresson approached me. And so she said, I know where to start. So she came over and we wrote an outline and I'd start, in on the chapters and the things I thought were important. And, it took a good year where we would meet and we move things around. We try and make it cohesive and intelligible for subject matter. And finally, it was released just on Amazon, just self-published. And I bought a bunch of copies and I, sold most of them. But then I thought there's so much that has changed. And I started writing a second edition because everything was, recording wise, it was a bit different. Competition wise, worldwide versus LA became different. Things that the auditions required were different. So I had to do an update on the book, which I did the update pretty quickly, but then pandemic hit and I was like, oh man, there's more. So that took a bit and we finally got that uploaded, and I thought I'll just buy a few copies. Mostly I just want people to buy it on Amazon. I prefer if they just get the paper book. I know people get the Kindle, and hopefully I've never read the Kindle of it. I have a Kindle, but I like the way pictures come up better on this.
Yeah.
I think Kindles don't always have good pictures. So, and I had to change, my booth changed. So yeah, I wrote a second one. And at the same time, I was doing an update on my children's book, Baby Banana and the Licorice Tree, which I have a character and an album for Baby Banana and the Licorice Tree. And so I have this children's book that I rewrote, and it's very beautiful. And it's also on Amazon. So I have a couple books self-published, and that's how that happened. I really didn't plan on it. And now I had to raise my rates to keep up with there's only so much time in my day. So it's kind of automatic. People can go to calendly.com/Debi Derryberry and book a spot, and I'll coach them. And I usually find that after people coach on an audition, they learn so much. I mean, I coach a lot of newbies, but I also coach a lot of established actors that are like, oh, I didn't think of that. Oh yeah, let's put that. And they forget about pre-life and buttons and midlife and bringing it alive. And what did someone just ask you? And instead of just dialing it in.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that's so important. And no matter how, I'm sure even yourself, you as a teacher, you're probably reminding yourself all the time about these things. Like, oh yeah, as I teach this, I, remind myself to do this. It's easy to, I think people have this conception, you get to a certain point in your career and then that's it. You no longer are a student, but it's so important to constantly be consuming and learning and watching and listening to remind yourself how to stay competitive.
I still take classes. I took a workshop with Andrea Toyas a couple months ago.
Of Blizzard.
Yep. And it's hard for me I just feel like I'm me, but people are like, oh, it's the Debi Derryberry. And I'm like, what is that? I'm just me. I like what I do. I work. I audition a lot. I like to meet different people. I'm, virtually is how I get to meet people now. And so I still I have a commercial VO coach that I call to run, I still coach myself because I want to be the best I can be. And I love voiceover. And I find that the community of voiceover is, I don't know, I love it. They're so welcoming and nice and cool. And it's a different vibe than on camera or theater. Voiceover has its own special, wonderful, welcoming vibe.
Yeah, and this is a great transition for us, or a segue. You started out doing on camera, I believe you worked with Jim Varney doing Ernest, one of Ernest's things, which was one of my favorite movie. I mean, Ernest Goes to Camp, Ernest Does Halloween. All of those movies were my favorite. So I'd love to know a little bit about that experience for you and how, even a little bit before that, how did you find your way into wanting to become an actor, to getting that job, to then we can talk about how that transitioned into going from, okay, I did on camera, now let's try voiceover. How did that whole I know it's a little bit long here, but I'd love to know that whole inception.
I didn't know what voiceover was. I was a pre-med at UCLA.
Oh, so was I.
You were?
Not at UCLA, but I was doing pre-med for 2 years before I wound up switching to communications and then theater, blah, blah, blah. Anyway.
I stayed in it the full 4 years, and I'm a singer and a songwriter. So I would go down and busk down in Westwood with my guitar and write songs in the stairwells and played at the coffee shops and pursued my studiousness, my studies. And I graduated, and I'm like, I don't want to go to med school. And somebody said, you got to move to Nashville, because I was into country music then. So I moved to Nashville. Just went, and I started singing my country music at little bars, and got a singing partner and could do harmonies, and it was good fun. And then I had done a summer theater program at UCLA. In addition to all of high school, I did theater. I did community theater starting when I was 8. So I always was in theater, and I was always loving acting. But Daddy said, you can't make a living acting. So I made sure I didn't get a degree in that. So when I was in Nashville, I sang on the Ralph Emery show, which was their equivalent of Johnny Carson, or, a late night show now. And the sax player said, you should meet this agent who does voiceover. And I said, all right. So she signed me in Nashville, and she paid for me to go next door and make a little demo on a cassette with 3 little commercials. And then I got cast in Tennessee Repertory's theater version of To Kill a Mockingbird, which is the last play I did in high school. So I did it when I was, 17. And I did it again when I was 27, the 12-year-old Girl Scout. Someone saw me in that and said, will you do the little boy role in Hey Vern, It's Ernest, this Saturday morning cartoon, and you dress up like a clown? I said, okay. So that was my first, and I had done a few commercials as elves, the Kroger elf, or, different things like that. So then I got in SAG, and I got to stop waiting tables because I had checks that were bigger than my waiting table checks. And then one thing led to another. I wrote, and then I was doing Ernest Goes to Camp as a body double, because I'm 4'10". I'm the size of a 12-year-old boy or 11-year-old boy. And in that movie, Ernest Goes to Camp, was a little kid named Scotty Manville. Mm-hmm. His mommy and me sat in the forest while they filmed, and I went and stood in for the little boys, and, got my $70 a day. And she said, you should do voiceover. And I said, what is voiceover? And she said, it's, cartoon voices. Well, I just thought cartoon voices were those voices. I didn't know it was a thing. So she gave me some names of casting directors in Los Angeles, one of whom was Ginny McSwain at Marvel. I sent them my cassette, a little letter. They said, good voice. Yeah, but you have to live in LA. So I was getting divorced, and I moved back home, moved back to Los Angeles. And Ginny walked me into ICM, and they signed me, and I started auditioning and booking. About 2 weeks later, I started booking, and that's how it's been. And I just learned on the job. And I remember my first session, I was scared to death. I didn't know how did it work. Yeah. So I asked Townsend Coleman, and I'm like, Townie, what do I do? And he said, you're going to be fine. This is how it's going to go. And that's something that I teach when people are here, for kids or whatever in person. We don't necessarily have paper scripts anymore, but, I would teach them how to do the paper slide, and who to look at, and whose name to remember. And if there's a famous person in that studio, they're not who you need to know. You need the writer, the director, the producer. These are the people you remember. So hopefully I can impart that onto my voiceover students, because behavior and what's the right word I'm looking for? The
etiquette.
Etiquette. Yeah, thank you.
I'm on the same frequency.
VO in-person etiquette is something that not all people think of. And I know a lot of acting teachers and voiceover teachers will come at it from acting. I expect my voiceover students to be actors. Mm-hmm. So I don't really spend a lot of time on the acting and I do look at incentives and things like that, but I do a lot of technical things, breaking things down a certain way, how to get that sound out, how to sound like you're crying. So when I teach, I try to give people concrete tools they can use that I've learned over the years.
That's so important, especially in because unlike in most artistic ventures, acting, singing, dancing, a lot of that stuff, it comes down to you must be talented. That has to be a given. You have to be an actor, like you said. And what are the things you can put in your control? You can put in control how to move your paper, how to work the microphone, where to stand, how, inflections, accessing different registers. And that's one thing I love about you that you've and I've been watching, your TikTok videos, and you've been going through and doing kind of like these breakdowns of all your characters and how you came up with these voices and things. And these are tangible tools.
Yeah, they're tangible tools. Good word.
Yeah, and it's and anybody who hasn't checked it out, I mean, you've gotten over 1 million followers, which is crazy. Has number one, watch it for the educational value. That's the point I'm talking about. But for you, has TikTok become like this thing? Like, was it for you like, oh, this looks fun, and now it's kind of like this voiceover? Traditionally through the years was like nameless or faceless names, right? That's what the world
invisible.
Yes, and now so many people are like, oh my God, that's now I know the face of the voice of Jimmy Neutron, or insert anything. Has that like changed your perception of this industry, or like opened up so many other possibilities for you and what you want to do? And this,
you mean TikTok?
Yeah.
Well, I never planned on doing TikTok. I have a 21-year-old son who said, Mom, let's make a TikTok. I'm like, all right, let's make a TikTok. And so we made a few of them, and then they started getting a lot of likes. And, he's off of college now. So I have a couple other people that help me make TikToks, and we try to see what is doing well. And we look at the comments and see what people want to see. And, you never know what their algorithms are, or, how things are going to go. But I never said, I want to be a TikTok sensation. I was in Trader Joe's the other day, and my husband and I were checking out, and there was these bunch of 7th or 8th graders, gathered, 5 of them, and the brave one came up. She said, are you the TikTok voiceover lady?
Oh my gosh.
It was funny. And then I was with my son at, I don't know, his apartment. We were outside in the front, and a little girl and her mom were walking by, and she said, Mom, it's TikTok lady.
It's got to be so surreal to have that now be this new.
Yeah.
I mean, because obviously people probably, talk to you to the cows come home about Jimmy Neutron, but now to have that be kind of like the way people are getting to learn about you and your craft and these things, that's got to be so surreal. It's
very strange. And it's just a couple years old, maybe, if that. Yeah. I don't know how it started, and I don't know if I'll really continue forever, but for now, it's fun. We make a couple videos a month and post them and see how it goes. I just, I want to keep people happy and interested, and yeah.
Yeah, but honestly, it's for people looking to get into this industry, you become somebody now, not that you weren't already, but it's the access to people being like, that's my idol. I aspire to do this and to work on this. It's putting a new way of seeing voiceover as a tangible career again, to use that word, because it was so, when I was first, watching video games and anime and Dragon Ball Z, I was just like, it didn't even cross my mind you could do that. It didn't.
How do you do it? There's no course in school. You have to really want it. You have to search. How do I do it? Who can hold my hand through this? Because nobody held my hand.
Yeah.
But, when I did it, we didn't have cell phones. We had beepers, and we learned as we went. But now everything is out there, and you have to be prepared. I had time to learn how to build a home studio, to learn how to use Twisted Wave or Adobe Audition. It was gradual as the need became more common in the workplace. I learned it. But now, for people who wanted to get into VO, it's not just, can you read? Can you get it off the page? Do you have a home studio? Do you know how to work it? Do you know how to network through social media, or because it's hard to meet people? There's so much people have to do now. And I'm hopefully can lay it out for them. And you were talking about the acting aspect of it. There are ways to make money in voiceover, even if you're not a good actor. I mean, I have some people that study with me, and they have started from square one. I mean, I've held their hand through getting the iPad and getting the twisted wave, getting the microphone, getting your booth set up, and they're not quite ready for an agent yet, but there's lots of ways people can scout out auditions, whether it's the pay to plays or, even wind it way back to Fiverr or your work or whatever that is. There are ways to get auditions. And it's interesting that when you start, obviously, as you know, it's all about the number of auditions you do. It's, what's the right word I'm looking for?
A numbers game, so to speak?
It's a numbers game, but it's also, I would say I book like 1 out of every 150 auditions.
Yeah, it's about having that ratio.
You have to like the process. The journey is what you have to like. Because you might be dry for 2 years, you might not book anything. So I love coming into my computer and I see the auditions come in and I'm like, that'll be fun. It's just fun for me.
Yeah.
So it has to be fun. If that part of it isn't fun, and if you take every audition as, oh, I didn't get it, I'm rejected, it is not the job for you.
Yeah. We've had so many people it's so true. Just talk about how the importance of fun. And I think you see the successful people in this industry, they often have a smile on their face. They often love what they do. They love their characters. They're, like there's so much of that is apparent, I think, because this industry is so competitive. It is so, it's very hard to make a living on doing just this.
It is, but you have to devote enough time to be able to get 5 to 6 auditions a day done, which comes to 25 to 30 auditions a week at least. And is your voice going to be okay after a full shift at the restaurant, after stocking shelves all night at Target? It's going to be tough.
I went on vacation, they always say, if you want to book something, plan a vacation.
Yes.
And I went away and I booked 3 commercials that they had to record that week. And I did it. I wound up doing it all the way from the Caribbean. I recorded 3 commercials. Yeah, because I bring my stuff.
Tell me what rig you take with you.
So I take my 416. I take an Evo 4 or a Scarlett Solo, whatever one's more close, just a quick little interface, my MacBook Air. And then when I build everything, I have like a Joby Gorilla Pod. Like I have like one of these things. It's not this one, but I have something like this. I attach it in the closet to like one of the hanging poles. And I have the shotgun mic, and I just take every pillow and towel and anything you can find, seat cushions, I stuff them in there, and that becomes a booth. And I was able to do Source Connect. I was just talking with people about this. Like everyone is obsessed with this idea of like, it's got to be the perfect this or perfect that. You have to be right for the spot. I believe you have to be good enough for them to be like, yeah, we'll work with you no matter where you are, and if you can do that and you
don't tell them where you are.
That too. That's it. So they booked me, and then that came upon the situation when they're like, I'm like, okay, is my Wi-Fi going to be good enough? And it was. That was the most important part. You have good enough Wi-Fi to connect.
Excellent. Yeah, I take my Mojave. I have a Mojave 50. I tried a lot of mics. I've tried the Neumanns, tried them all. The Mojave is what works for me. So I take my mic. I found this interface that's half the size of your cell phone, maybe twice as thick. It's called Centris.
Okay.
George told me about it. George Whitman, and it is cute as a bug. And I just have to show it to you. It's so cute.
Please.
And then I have this. I'm really little, as we said. I have a pop-up tent, one of those kids' pop-up tents.
Yes.
And I just throw a little blankie over it, and then I climb inside. I use the little TV table on the patio and bring it on in. Here's my Centris.
Oh, that is amazing.
Isn't it nice? You have this way. It has the XLR plug-in in one end.
Yep.
And it has a limiter, which if you're doing animation, the Scarlett is a good interface, but I don't really recommend it when you're doing animation
Yes. Yeah.
Because it doesn't have, like the Apollo twin, it doesn't have a compressor or limiter. So for my travel, I always use the Centris, and then at home I have the Apollo twin because I mostly do animation. So if you have either of those, you can do commercial. But if you have a Scarlett, it makes it tough to be like Warner Brothers big and then small, you know?
Yes, very true. And that's, I mean, I use the Apollo. It's right behind me over there. And yeah, exactly the point. You don't want to be worrying about those things, especially when you're on the road, like worrying about, being the engineer and also having a good performance. You don't want to have that interrupt your workflow or then realize, okay, that didn't work. We got to, that it just wastes time.
And that's why it's so important to be so good at it before you are ready. Like when people say, I want to get an agent, I'm like, whoa, hold the phone.
Yeah.
There's a few steps, because if you get an agent, they're going to send you an audition. Can you turn 5 auditions around in an afternoon?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't know. You have to get really familiar with the equipment, like learning a new device or something. It's a big deal. So to have our travel rigs, that's another thing that just came into play. I mean, Cipriano, he just took his tri-booth to Europe. I'm not going to travel with a tri-booth, but it's a great booth if you don't mind lugging it. It's too big for me to lug, which is why I have the little pop-up tent.
And that's great for you. What works for you?
It looks like a Jimmy Neutron rocket ship, actually. It's really
Well, there's another great. I love perfect segues because I would love to talk about. Obviously, we would be foolish here not to inquire about your amazing and beloved work on Jimmy Neutron. Do you remember the experience of getting that audition, being like, okay, what's going on here? Whether they gave you art or not, what's going on with that head? What's going on with that hairdo? Do you remember that process, or it was just like, okay, I booked this thing, I'm going into record it, and then what the heck just did this turn into?
It was much slower. The process was much slower. That was the day where you got a page, you call your agent, they tell you to show up at Bell Sound. You go there, they have a sign-in sheet, and you see who all's been there. And, everyone who did Little Boy Voices was there. Nancy Cartwright and E.G. and Pamela Adlon, everybody's there. But you didn't see them. They were out, and I hadn't done Little Boy Voices. I was a little girl voice. So I was like, I don't have texture in my little boy voice. Yeah, I don't have that thing that they do.
Yeah.
So I had to do it straight with no texture. And when they called and said, yes, they want you to do Johnny Quasar, which is what it was called, I said, well, great. And it was just a 5-minute interstitial. So things start out really, then it was just, that's how The Simpsons started, just little on the Tracy Ullman show shorts. So then they did a few of these interstitials, and they sent me the VHS tape. And I thought, that looks really cool. It looks so good. What is that? Computer animation? That's cool.
Uh-huh.
And then next, I don't know, a few months later, they said, we're going to do a movie. And I'm like, well, that's cool. A movie. And these days, you don't get a principal role in a movie because it all goes to celebrities.
Yeah.
So then they said, you're going to do a cartoon series. So it was very slow. And it wasn't until, it starts airing. And then it was great that it was on the air. But now all the kids who watched it are in their 20s because it's 20 years old now. And they have and now we have social media, and we have, it was trending on Twitter, the 20-year anniversary. So I think it's bigger now than it was then, but it's always been a smart cartoon. As a parent, I was happy to have my kid watch it, and people still know it. As voice actors, we wait for that one gig that people know. Like, I've been working steadily since then. Jumanji and F is for Family, and Bobby's World, and Jumanji, and
Monsters High.
Monster High. Just, it goes on and on and on. F is for Family, and Guild Wars 2, and Genshin Impact. Just, I'm in a lot of things, but there's that one thing that people remember.
Yeah.
And it's lovely that people remember it, and I am grateful. But at the same time, I don't feel like I'm any kind of celebrity status, or that I live in any kind of luxury. I work hard every day. I'm up, I go swimming, I eat breakfast, I walk the dogs, I get in my studio, and I start. I work all day until it's time to lunch, and then we come back in here. We take about a 30-minute lunch. It's a lot of time. I don't want to say it's hard work because I like it.
Of course.
But it's work, right?
Yeah.
It's all day. I took a 20-minute nap today. I laid down for 20 minutes. I thought, do I have time? So I set the timer and then come back.
Yeah, I think it's very important what you're saying here, because people have this maybe idea that like, oh, people live in this high life and it's all glamour, and you show up for a recording once a week, like you're on the sitcom schedule, so to speak. You show up for one day of rehearsal and then you tape one night and that's it. It's the life of a journeyman voice actor is day in, day out. You're pumping out auditions. I mean,
yeah.
How many times are you getting offers? I'm sure they come through for things and people are requesting you for things and asking you, but like you said, you're still sending in 6 auditions a day. And it is hard work by the standard of you have to be on your A game and focused, and you have to put in 110% because you're competing against everybody else who's also, E.G. Daily.
And not just the world. You're not just LA, but the world now.
Yeah.
I'm competing with the world.
Yeah. I'm glad for my listeners to hear that, because a lot of people, the blessing and the curse of social media is they see this now as a great opportunity to, hey, I want to do that. I would love to do that. I'd love to be the voice of a cartoon. But you gotta love every ounce of this industry if you want to have a career in it, because you're not always going in to record Jimmy Neutron or Genshin Impact or whatever it might be. Sometimes you're in there recording,
a dubbing show or something where you're making, $73 instead of $1,000, but it's what I love to do.
Yeah.
And I was going to say something else. I can't remember what it was. Okay.
I was going to ask, when you were doing Jimmy Neutron and series at that time, were you doing prelay? Were you recording with the cast and stuff? Is that where you were recording? Do you have any memorable moments from working with with Rob Paulson, or like where a moment that just stood out that you were like, this is what it's all about, being in this room with other actors and recording?
To say this is what it's all about, it implies that I always wanted to do it, and I'm always looking for that. But I never have looked for this is what it's all about. To me, this is my life. This is what I do.
Great point.
There are really fun times when you get to be together in the booth, which we used to be. And I'm sort of the straight man, like Rob Paulson, Mark DiCarlo, Jeff Garcia. These are funny people, and when the director lets them run loose, it's mayhem.
Yeah.
And actors need to be stroked to get them to be funny. Me, I'm more the businessman, the straight person. But then they realized that time is money.
Yeah.
And you put the headphones on these actors and then they just go crazy and you never get them, like, come on, rein it in, people. So they started recording one at a time and they got a lot more done. Sometimes they'll invite 2 people in at once if they really need that camaraderie. They need that back and forth. But it doesn't happen as much anymore.
Yeah.
I think now that they know how to work clean feed and that you're not limited by the voice delay in Zoom when you're all together, I think they're figuring it out how you can record all together. But it's changed so much. Yeah, but no, I don't have any of those moments. I enjoy all of it, and Rob is amazing to work with. And I when we did I forget which show, but being in the booth with D. Bradley Baker, I can't be in the booth with him, Paul.
No,
he's too funny. I can't. How am I supposed to keep a straight face with that man? He's absolutely brilliant and hilarious. But I've got to work side by side with these people who are now considered icons, Jim Cummings and Rob Paulson and everybody who's it's really different to look back and say those were the good old days, Bob Birkin and sorry, my dogs, it's that walkie time.
No worries. We'll get you out of here very soon. I want to ask a couple of very important questions, but I loved your answer there. And that's actually, I think I'm so glad you addressed it that way, because you love what you do, and it doesn't matter. There's no expectation of what it should or shouldn't be. It is, and this is the life, and you love the good and what some people might consider the bad or the not so good, whatever it is. Every moment of it is
you make your choices. So I try to make choices that I will say, that's good.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. What about having, you work on these characters sometimes. Well, actually, better question. Is there a project, because we talk about, Jimmy Neutron, it's a big title and people think of it as this celebrity thing, but it's, it's 1% of the work that you do. There's 99% of these other things. Is there a project or a character or a spot that you did that's lesser known that you really, really enjoyed and you like, I wish people could see that because I really like that one?
Yeah. There's one on, it's now on Hulu, it's on Cartoon Network, called Tigtone, Tigtone.
Uh-huh.
And it's written a little bit like Roald Dahl. It's if you combined Game of Thrones with Monty Python, and a little South Park, you get this cartoon that's insane, Paul. It's it's the character Tigtone, who's this hero on quests, and he has a purple sidekick named Helpy. And I found this voice where I don't know how it comes out of me. It doesn't have me, but it shows you Tigtone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's gorgeous. And the voice I do for the little purple monster, hi, I'm Helpy. I like to help. My appendages, pull it off. It will regenerate. He's so funny. And it's such a good show. I hope that it'll come back in some way, but that one is great. And then there was another one I did 5 seasons on that I wish more people watched. Bill Burr is,
of course, F is for Family.
Yeah, F is for Family. I got to do 7 characters on that show. Yeah. And each one for me is a different person, and it's fun to inhabit them and to move from Philip, the kid down the street, into Bridget, the girl down the street who has a very foul mouth and she'll curse you up one side and down the next. And then Maureen is Daddy's little princess. And then Kitty, he wears a diaper and his mama's in the people zoo.
Isn't that such a gift when they give you the opportunity to play around and to put your kind of flavor on more than just one character, and to have the trust from a company or studio writers to be like, yeah, Debbie can kill all these. Yeah.
Well, I don't know that I was cast as one character. Yeah. And they said, try this one. And then, you show what you've learned for 30 years and they say, try this one. Again, and working with people like Mo Collins from Mad TV, and she's just brilliant looking at her characters, and with Kevin Michael Richardson and his characters. So they have these celebs, Laura Dern and Bill Burr, as the core, and then they pepper it with seasoned voice actors, us rank and file voice actors that can fill in the show, and it's great fun and satisfying. Really satisfying.
I've watched the show almost every season, I believe. I think there's 6 seasons, right? I think I've watched like 4 or 5.
I think.
So I've watched like 4 of them. It's so hilarious. I mean, Bill Burr is phenomenal, and I love his. And
as the show went on, he started developing new characters too, like his priest. Amazing.
Yeah.
And also, there were babies, and that's my specialty is babies. So there's 2 babies, but then they go to baby class and there's 10 babies. Oh, me.
Oh my gosh. Great. So how about the Toy Story aliens? How was that whole process for you in terms of like figuring that voice out and like you're not just one, you're this whole.
Hey, you're gonna just not believe how simple this one was. Okay. It was an ADR group. Mickey McGowan would bring us in and we'd do these Pixar films. And there'd be 13 of us in the room for 8 hours at Doc's Stage B at Disney, this big, beautiful studio a sound stage where they bring you snacks and treats all day. and they say, okay, we got these aliens in a gumball. We're at Pizza Planet. Debbie, Denny, Jess, get up there and just make some noise as aliens. And then you want the fork to pick you.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody give me a pick me, somebody give me, here comes the claw. And then they say, go. And we go, oh, the claw, pick me, pick me. This process took about a minute, maybe 2 minutes. And you never know when you're doing something, what is going to stick, what's going to pop out. You know, for the viewers now that watch Toy Story, they love, pick me, pick me. Well, that's my voice.
Yeah.
And who knew? It was just a movie. We didn't know it was going to do great. We didn't know it was going to be iconic. We didn't know that 20 years later, Disney was going to, I also did the voice of Pizza Planet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Waldman, party of 6, please come pick up your pizza. It's ready. I got a call 20 years later. They wanted to know who did that voice of that. And the looping coordinator takes notes. And so they called me to go in and do the voice for the Pizza Planet ride. 22 years later, please keep your arms and legs inside the ride and all that thing. Wow. It's just, you never know.
Uh-huh.
The smallest job can explode.
Yeah, and that's why you always got to show up and have your A game. I mean, we'll keep reiterating that. But what about with titles like that, or things that you've worked on in the past, or Monster High, Jimmy Neutron, these things you've worked on for so long? Do you find that, you know, over time you wind up, and even if it's for family, you know these characters so well that you almost know them just as good, if not better, than the writers, and that your instincts are almost like constantly kicking in and adding flavor? Are you wanting to take those liberties to kind of be like, I know this, like I want to add this flavor?
I think they want you to take that flavor after you know the characters. Like when I go in to do a video game of a character I've done, 10, 12 years later, there's always different writers, but they actually default to the character. They're like, and I'll say this, she wouldn't say this, or he wouldn't say this.
Yeah.
And for the most part, they're pretty good. But because the writers change so much, they do depend on you to know your character and would your character do that and say that. And I can live in that character, and all the characters for F is for Family. I can live in Jimmy Neutron. I can live in Draculaura. You want to give something to it, to decorate it, to give the animators something to color, to make them laugh, to bring it alive. If you think there's a giggle there, put it there. I think a lot of voice actors are married to the words on the script. In commercial, you are. But in animation, I would say never stick to the words only, especially for audition. When you go in to do the job, they may have you stick to the script. But when you audition for the job, that's a whole different story. 99% of people are going to read what's there on the page. There's 1% of us that are going to decorate it. Right?
That's what we talk about in the beginning, your pre-life, your midlife, these breaths, these sighs, these laughs, anything you can do to make the character come off the page and not just be words written. It's all right in the book. I would love to talk about that a little. Sorry, you said you're working on a new project right now with video, I believe is what you said. What is this new form of are you doing like online video coaching? What is this new project that you're working on?
Well, I've been video coaching since pandemic, but this next class I'm teaching is specifically going through this book. And I'm just doing 3 sessions, 3 2-hour-ish sessions. I have a class full of people who got in, and then I'll edit it, and I'll have a 6-hour video where people can watch it and learn everything I know. Amazing. And I'll be able to hopefully have it, on my website, and people can get it, and it'll be much more affordable than paying my hourly rate for 6 hours. And you'll be able to know, what I'm really talking about because I'm going through it with you. And I do enjoy teaching, but I would like people who can't afford my hourly rate to be able to learn what it is I want them to know.
That's amazing. I
want to keep it affordable.
Yeah, that's not everybody has the same access to things, and as more and more people become interested, it's a way smarter investment to try out these things that aren't, you don't invest in the 6-week course with the demo reel at the end and the studio bricks right up front. Like, learn the things that you can in this way and have it be quality content. That's, you may not have the back and forth that you might have being the student in the class, but you can always take the class after you watch the video.
You can do a private with me after you have learned the basics of what it is I have to share with you. Cause I feel like I share in a different way with people. I want to give you tools that you can use. These are fail safe tools that if you use them, something will happen.
Yes. I would we have a couple more minutes here and then we have a question. I would love to ask you, I know there's some stuff, and share with me what you can. I know the whole lay of the land of NDA stuff. I hear there's talk of a Paramount Plus Jimmy Neutron series coming out. I don't know if that's official stuff you can talk about, as well as something on your IMD that says Nicktoons announced. I don't know how much of this stuff you can share.
I really don't know what that Nicktoons thing is. I don't know. And Nickelodeon Paramount Plus would never share that with me. So I have no idea. I do know there's a lot of fans. I know Discord is huge, especially for Mark DiCarlo. And when I'm on Discord, people are nuts. I know my fan base. I have Jimmy Neutron on my TikTok. One of them hit 12 million.
Wow.
There are a lot of fans out there. And I know that if Jimmy Neutron came back, it would be well received. And I would love to do it.
Yes.
But I don't have any information to share. I wish I did.
All right. The question ends there. That's all I need to hear. Keith, I would love for you to bring in one of our audience questions. We have people write in. You can email info@pointsofexperience podcast and send in a video or written question. I believe we have a written question today. If you don't mind bringing that up for Debbie right now.
Yep. And this question is from Rocca Swift. I saw you do a Dan Boney animation class from your Twitter. How was your experience working with the students in that class?
Danny Bowman is on the spectrum, and she has her master's in animation. She was also one of the stars in Love on the Spectrum. I've been working with Danny for about 4 or 5 years now, and she's very devoted to her craft, and she has learned how to overcome her the things that she has. I think she's autistic, but for being on the spectrum, she knows how to work with autistic kids who are artists, and she'll call me in and I will teach for these kids on the spectrum, and I will keep it, limited to what I can do in the short period of time that I teach there. I find they're brilliant. Everybody has their own limitations as far as communication or being able to handle loud noises, because in animation, there is a lot of highs and lows. And for, I think, most of the people on the spectrum, that is difficult. But what I want to work on with them is, giving them some tools, encouraging them, showing them the tricks because there's some good readers. There are some people on the spectrum who are stilted readers. Mm-hmm. And there's tricks like pianists, when they play a piece on the piano, the repetition. People don't realize that if you repeat these 5 words in a row, like a tongue twister, you're going to train those mouth muscles to do it. So there's little tricks I use with them that I might not use with somebody who's not on the spectrum. But I applaud Danny for all she does, and her Aunt Sandy, who's been so supportive. And I love the girl, and it's very impressive all she's done.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing, and a wonderful show to watch if you haven't seen it. Love on the Spectrum. She's fantastic and a true lover of animation. And
she's one of those people that she works it. She doesn't just talk about it. She's working on it all day, every day, and it's what she loves to do. And that's what makes any job fun, is that it's your passion. Mm-hmm. You have to like it. You have to be passionate about it. Even people who like things that might seem like what you don't want to do, like building stone patios.
Sure.
It's people's passions, and I don't ever want to do that. But people want to do that because they love it. And that's the
Exactly.
bottom line.
And that's where the art is in it too. You see people doing these fantastic things and breaking, new barriers and seeing things that have never been done before because people love what they do. And even though one thing might seem boring or mundane to you, or, some people might see voiceover and be like, why do you want to do that? It's people love it. And that's what the beauty of various different careers is.
It's what I do. I didn't know it was what I was going to do. I just fell into it and there's no roadmap. I wish there was a roadmap. Dear Debbie, how do I get into voiceover? Well,
well, you have provided a lot of tools and you are continuing to do so for people. So while there might not be a roadmap, there are kind of little breadcrumbs that you're leaving along the way for people to pick up and hopefully lead them to a path that works for them.
And everybody's story is different.
Yep. There is no one size fits all. I would love to ask you as our last question here, as we let you go. I would love to know, as the show is called Points of Experience here, has there been an experience you've had in your life that truly resonated with you and you learned from, and it stands out amongst many of the other experiences I'm sure you've had where you're like, wow, I really learned something there, and I'd love to pass that nugget of wisdom on to somebody else?
No, there's not just one, but I can give you a couple.
Can you pull one from the tree, just the closest apple?
When I was in that forest doing backup, doing stand-in work for the boys, somebody opened a door for me. Scotty's mommy, Dottie Menville, opened a door for me and I went through it. So if you can be aware of when a door is opening, not to hem and haw, run, don't walk through that door, because you never know how long that door is going to be open, and you never know when an opportunity is going to come your way again. So opportunities, when people say, look for your opportunities, it's a real thing. They do happen. You meet somebody, and I'm working with a kid right now. He wants to move out here, and he's helping me so much on a certain thing, and I connected him with somebody. I did a letter of introduction for him. It's on him. But to make that connection is something that neither of us was expecting.
Yeah.
But it makes me feel so good to be able to do that. And that is a door that is opening for him. So yeah, look for those open doors and go through them.
Yeah, it sounds like he's also doing something that I always really love to preach and talk about, is like providing value, if you can, to somebody, not just asking, seeing a way that you can be a help to somebody in a way that you may not even know.
Because he's pursuing his passion. And for me, when I see people being persistent, even if they're just beginning in voiceover, even if they don't have the chops that they need to get an LA agent, when I see persistence, that really impresses me. I like that. Because if you're persistent, that means you're going to work hard and you're going to bring your game to the project and you're not going to slack.
Please, anything you'd like to share, any shows, where can people find you, all of that good stuff?
My website is DebiDerryberry.com. It's spelled kind of weird, but here it is, Debi Derryberry.
There you go. We'll put it in the show notes.
Thank you. And then if you have kids or preschoolers in your life, please go to Spotify and listen to all my kids' music. I have 3 award-winning preschool albums out, and I love singing to preschoolers, and it's so much fun, and I have the best version of The Wheel on the Bus you've ever heard in your life. And then I also have a band called Honey Pig, and if you want to go to the Instagram for Honey Pig Music, at Honey Pig Music, you can see where we're singing. It's a 3-part chick harmony country folk kind of band. Music is my thing. And also, yes, if you want to find the book on Amazon, you guys are going to put the link there.
Yeah.
And
any shows people should watch? Any shows? Anything that people coming out or just came out that you want people to look out for?
Yeah, I'd love it if people would. There's a PC game called Guild Wars 2, and the new chapter, End of Dragons, is out, which is really good and fun to play. And of course, Genshin Impact is out, and I'm Tubby, this sort of penguin-looking thing. And do watch F is for Family on Netflix, because unless you're you have to be like 17. Don't watch it if you're not 17 because it's a little bit raunchy, little tiny bit harsh. And then if you watch the new Minions movie, Rise of Gru, I have a lot of extra voices in that.
Amazing. Oh, amazing. We'll make
So
sure
that's
to put
what's going
this.
on.
We'll make sure to put some in the intro and outro. We're gonna play some of your music, and we'll link everything to your classes and your book because it's not only amazing stuff that people should watch out. There's fantastic resources that I want to make sure people have access to. So
And follow me on TikTok.
Heck yes, I highly recommend following there because it's entertaining, educational, and everything you could ask for, especially as somebody like myself who grew up watching and listening to everything you've worked on.
Thank you. So get vaccinated, spay and neuter your dogs. I'm done. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. The absolutely vibrant and amazing Debi Derryberry. That was such a treat. Everybody says it, and I said it in the podcast when you talk about the voices of your childhood. I mean, even like JJ the Jet Plane, the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. There's just so much stuff that, I mean, Genshin Impact 2, I'm a huge fan of that. Crash Bandicoot, so many things that I grew up watching, and she's just so nice and gives back to this community. She's in it for life. This is her life, and she lives and breathes this, and you can tell everything she does. She's putting a billion% into, and there's, she fell into it, and this is where she is. And I really respected everything she had to say. Even with like TikTok, there's no absolutes. She's doing what she's doing now, and she loves it, and she's having fun, and who knows what's next. Just love what you do and have fun. And she does that in everything she does. I mean, even, she was talking about writing a children's book and doing music and providing videos for people to learn voiceover. Keith, can we please pull up some of Debi's fantastic music that, I wanted to make sure we got her out at a time. Hey, Keith, can we bring up some of Debi's music here on Spotify for our listeners here?
A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Won't you sing along?
Oh my gosh.
Come on now. Sing along. I know you know it. A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Oh, that's fantastic.
H, I, J, K,
Yeah.
L, M, N, O.
That is amazing. If you have kids, I can just imagine if everything is in that same genre and that style. If you have kids, please check that out. That is phenomenal. And she also has a bunch of YouTube videos on her personal YouTube, which, YouTube Debi Derryberry. And we're going to link everything, like we said, in the description. So you can find everything we talked about there and get access to her books, her classing, her coaching, all of that amazing stuff. And the children's books as well. They're phenomenal. What a great soul, Debi. Thank you for coming on the podcast. It's an honor to have spoken with you. And that was amazing. Again, thank you everybody for supporting the podcast. If you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, we'd really appreciate it. Points of Experience Podcast. Let us know what you think. Let us know who you'd like to have on the show. Review us and follow us on Spotify. Give us a comment on YouTube. What did you think? All of that great stuff. We appreciate you, and we hope to continue providing some points of experience for you.